I really wanted to change the way people think about medicinal plants, well-being, destigmatize some of the areas about well-being. Hi, I'm Eoin Keenan, founder of Goodrays, and I'm unemployable. You have to have a lot, I think, on the line to do this kind of stuff. We're in the middle of a mental health pandemic where 67% of people are feeling stress on a weekly basis. At the time, CBD was worth more in weight than gold. Like, people think about longevity more and more. I'd ordered 100,000 cans that had the word cannabis on them, and then our retailer was like, you cannot put that in our store. The sky is the limit.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Unemployables podcast. We're here at ITV in London in our lovely establishment, and we have got an extra special guest today. We've got Eoin Keenan, the founder of Goodrays. Everybody, a round of applause. We've got our lovely punters joining us here today. So, Owen, I have known you a good amount of time now. I think I first met you, you came to one of our events back in Fortnum Mason about 3 or 4 years ago, because as so often happens with Phoebe, the gang is amazing at saying, have you heard of this incredible entrepreneur who's doing this amazing product? And so I actually did go and have one of your Goodrays before I actually met with you, and therefore was able to, it's just lovely. It tastes lovely, but the feeling you get is really calming. And I think the story behind that is so fascinating. Owen, when did you start Goodrays? Because this has been something this is a product that's massively helped you to overcome something that may have been quite a big barrier to you in your life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, my background is a little bit funny. I'm not like an ex-food and drink founder. I didn't come from Diageo or Nestle, which has pros and cons. Like, you have a level of naivety, but also a level of optimism that kind of anything can be done. My background is really like as a user. So when I was at university in Dublin, I was struggling a lot with anxiety and with sleep issues. And someone recommended to me, why don't you try CBD? Now, this is like 2014, so it's been a kind of 12-year journey to get here.
And this was back before, maybe there'd have been some eyes raised at that point about having CBD in your drink, right?
Yeah, it was like relatively, let's say, grey market. Like, basically what you're getting is like hemp ground up into like olive oil that you get at the back of an apothecary if you know where to look.
And you knew where to look?
I knew where to look. I mean, I grew up in the middle of, Dublin. You get your hands on worse. And so, like, I was trying CBD because I kind of did the studies. Like, it's non-psychoactive, it's non-addictive, it's pretty harmless. As a student, like, I'd seen worse. And I was taking about 30 days. And after about 30 days, I was sleeping 8 hours a night, feeling a lot less physically anxious as well. Like, I used to get quite bad kind of tremors and that kind of stuff.
So this was really bad anxiety. This wasn't an easy ride. Yeah,
I think so. Like, it's something, I don't want to talk too much about my family necessarily, but they've been through similar things. It's something that, like, kind of genetic, but also I think just most young people have nowadays, or have gone through some kind of experience with that. And when you have been through that, like, when you find a level of kind of calm or clarity, or you start to get your sleep back, it's worth its weight in gold. So after about 30 days, I was feeling massively better. I was basically like a guinea pig, kind of logging my journey for over the 30 days. And I asked my professor at university, could I do a dissertation on CBD and drug policy? Because I did sociology at university. And he said yes. So I spent about a year studying drug policy and why was CBD grey market or illegal, and it was legal in some markets, and basically handed that in, and I went straight to the US and Canada, where it basically was the only 2 markets in the world at the time where there was a fully legal market.
So it was great in the UK?
In the UK and Europe and most of the world. I mean, some places are heavily illegal and still is. So, like, you look at the Middle East. Well, it's like a long history of international drug policy, from like Nixon moving against the countercultural hippie movement in the US in the 1960s. So, like, the history of hemp is the oldest plant known to man. So it was used for medicine, it was used for shelter, it was used for food for like millennia, like as far back as Mesopotamia. So it's a massively historical plant. It's only in a very small sliver of time where it's been criminalized. And that is really like for political reasons. And from the US, and the US put massive pressure on the rest of the world then to criminalize CBD. So it's only really like since the 1940s, 1950s, I believe. So actually a pretty small space of time. But the US had obviously become more progressive. And so I went over there, I planned to stay for kind of 2 months and drive around and learn about hemp and see hemp farms and see how they produced hemp products and all that kind of stuff. But I ended up staying for 2 years, met my wife over there, lived at the back of a Jeep for 6 months.
So your wife's American, Canadian?
She's not actually, no, she's British. But what we did is I bought a car in San Francisco, like the cheapest car you could get. It didn't even have like a keyhole. You had to like kind of put your finger in the inside and hook it open. Didn't have a radio, that had been stolen. But had 300,000 miles on it. So I've never seen a car since with the same level of miles. But it had a lot of space in the back, so you could kind of sleep in it, so you could go farm to farm and see what was happening. And I met an amazing farmer, took me in, taught me everything about cultivation. These are these people who'd left San Francisco in like the 1960s to basically run hemp and medicinal cannabis farms, and they'd created like the mecca of cultivation of hemp, medicinal cannabis, and everything else, and still is probably the most lucrative market for CBD and for hemp and medical cannabis. And they taught me everything I needed to know, really. And this job is obviously great.
Well, when you say they taught you everything you needed to know, what specifically do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, starting at Cultivation, like I was really, I think my initial thinking was like, I would love to bring a kind of like farm to table style business, ideally in Ireland or the UK, where we could grow hemp and then we could create products from hemp that were for well-being purposes, and then we could get them to the tables and stores, etc., and have this really clear supply chain and product story. So I started like just cultivation, like seeds, growing. How do you grow the best quality product? How do you then manufacture that product? How do you harvest that product? And what we also did is like we supplied the bulk of the plants into the breweries that were brewing CBD beers and CBD drinks. So then I learned about that side of things and the compliance side of things and how you get into customers. So everything from literally seed to customer. And it was amazing. We'd work that harvest and then we'd go ski in the winters up in Tahoe and in Canada.
Wow, you really did live the life, didn't you?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was honestly amazing. And you can only stay a certain amount of time. So when I came back to the UK, it was like, this is all I really want to do, want to get a job in. But that didn't
How old are you, Owen, at this point?
At that point, I was like 24, I must have been, or something, about that.
So that's really cool. At the age of 24, you knew exactly what your purpose, your vision was, what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think I'm very lucky to have discovered that pretty early. Like, I have lots of friends who are still in that bit where they don't know exactly where they want to work or what they want to work, and they're constantly thinking about it. And I feel very blessed in the fact that like that was the kind of one true thing. But like the best feedback I think I've got from other entrepreneurs or advisors is like, just pick something you love and try and do something in something you love, and then it doesn't feel so much like work. And I think that's probably the key to this, is I just loved it from the beginning, and I was a consumer from the beginning. I had a genuine impact on me and my lifestyle. So yeah, I feel very blessed in that regard. But I don't think it was also like an easy journey to start that, because when I came to London, like there were 12 people working in medical cannabis and CBD. You could fit them underneath a pub, like literally Bradley's in Soho. Underneath it has got a really small room, which I highly recommend going. It's actually a great pub. But they used to host these events where and you get kind of, you imagine the first medical cannabis people in the UK, you get quite extreme views. But you get patient groups and lobbyists and all this kind of stuff. And it started really organically, but it wasn't very lucrative. So I helped set up a regulatory advisory firm, because I had a relatively niche set of skills and knowledge. And we worked with the NHS, we worked with government, international government, we worked with some of the US producers who were looking to move over to the US or the UK. And collectively, working between patient groups and lobbyists and industry, we helped get medical cannabis and CBD legalized in 2018, which kind of opened up this big market and this big, in a sense, gold rush in CBD. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, I'm working on the regulatory side. I was helping set up a medical cannabis clinic in Harley Street in Soho, which was great. And, patients were getting access to medical cannabis, which is cool. But for me, like, there's so much red tape involved in the kind of medical regulated side. And I was a CBD consumer. I'm not a doctor. Like, I shouldn't be, putting in licenses into medical cannabis dispensaries and that kind of stuff. So I actually really wanted to start a brand, and I wanted to reach a mass market. I really wanted to get into supermarkets and kind of change the way people think about plants, medicinal plants, well-being, destigmatize some of the areas about well-being and anxiety.
And purely because of the impact it had on you from a personal point of view.
Yeah, that's where it started from. I knew it was massively impactful. I'm a massive consumer of CBD and of Goodrays, and I don't think I'll ever stop, to be honest. And I think when you're that close to it and that kind of, as much an advocate for it as I was a consumer, as I was an entrepreneur within it. And, the goal was always to get into as many places as possible, right? Make it accessible for the everyday person. Because at the time, CBD was worth more in weight than gold. Like, it was extremely expensive. So you needed to get to scale to make it accessible for the everyday person. And drinks did that because it was like the entry point. Because most of the CBD oils or gummies or balms on the market were like £50 with ridiculous margins, or £100. So it just was very much for the elite. And actually we thought something like this can really bring people in and can offer them like an everyday well-being solution, which is healthier than almost every soft drink on the market, isn't filling you with, caffeine, it's going to make you crash, and is as part of a good mission and purpose, which is about well-being, which just didn't exist in the food and drink aisles. Like, historically in food and drink, we've been really, really bad at addressing well-being. We've been pumping people full of sugar or ultra-processed food or booze. Is like, can we do a little bit better? And now you see that.
So there's nothing ultra-processed in this?
This is pretty much all natural. So we use natural juices, natural flavorings, natural colorings. It's pretty simple drink.
Because it's the sweeteners that can sometimes be the naughties in a product, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of, in the drinks industry in particular now, you have this thing where everyone's trying to claim 0 grams of sugar, but actually when you look at it, how many E numbers are required to do that? How many artificial sweeteners are required to do that? Do we know enough about artificial sweeteners? So, we declare a level of sugar which comes purely from fruit juice, but I think that's the safer, healthier, more natural way to do it.
Yeah. So at what point then did Goodrays be born? What take us to that moment then when you were able to create that first drink, that first recipe, whatever it was?
Yeah, like 2019, so kind of middle of 2019. I had been hosting these events in London called Cannabis Europa. So these were like kind of, I don't know if this sounds too pretentious, but like global summits for medical cannabis industry. So we'd fly over people from the US or from Europe who are like very forward thinking around medical cannabis. And I was talking about CBD, etc. And I'd met a couple of other entrepreneurs and advisors who'd worked in the consumer goods industries. And we got together and we said, actually, we think we can probably make a drink. This is probably the future of the market. It's not necessarily the oils or the gummies market. Like, to really get to mainstream, we need to be a beverage, and that's the way we attract the masses. And so that's really where we began. And Goodrays, like as a brand name, was really come from God rays. Have you ever seen kind of like strands of light you particularly see over the sea if you're out swimming or surfing? And me and a couple of other friends and entrepreneurs were surfing one time, seeing the lights of the sun, actually thinking like that is the natural power of the earth, right? And that is the natural source of all good well-being and all good things come from the sun. So kind of looking at God rays became good rays, and the story became, all good things come from the power of the sun, and have kind of been a pillar across all our products, which is grounded in nature products that are all produced from natural plants.
But like many things, this was at that point still a relatively new category. Mm-hmm. So how did you start to influence people that there was something in this that could actually be scaled up?
Yeah, well, we started probably from our own consumption was really like probably moderators, in terms of trying to reduce alcohol, reduce sugar and that kind of stuff. So we initially thought that this was like a really good on-trade proposition, right? We'd go into pubs and bars and everyone want to sell CBD drinks and everyone will slow down their drinking and drink CBD drinks. But actually that tends to be quite a difficult and expensive business model to launch, because you need lots of people going into lots of bars to make sure you're out in the front of the bar like this and you're, activating. And then we found actually going into more convenience stores. So I started in my local neighborhood in Stoke Newington, just going convenience store to convenience store, selling in, and it just worked really, really well. And then you can see it like in comparison to, you can actually ask them like, how's that selling versus Coke or Lucozade or all that kind of stuff. And you say, actually, this is performing really well. And taking the a case study from one corner store, Londis N16 in Stoke Newington, which is the best corner store in London, guaranteed. And taking that to the retailers and saying like, you actually have to really think about this. But we went to the retailers with a different approach as opposed to like sell our product, you will make more margin, but actually with to them more of a category approach, taking like, look how bad all these drinks are for you. Like, what are you going to do about health, well-being, not just us, but many of the other products on Phoebe, which is kombuchas or gut health or like natural energy or even low sugar. Like the supermarkets are relatively slow moving in that regard. So, but the consumer is massively fast moving in that regard because they're so interested in health. And so we were trying to help them come up to speed and went in and talked about all these amazing products, but also talked to them about like CBD policy. So I went in obviously from my policy background and like initially speaking to retailers. Sometimes we'd start at the buyer, but then it would go straight up to like the C-suite at Tesco. So I did a presentation, which, we were pretty much pre-revenue in convenience stores and that was it. And I was doing a presentation for like, Ashwin and stuff in Tesco. And I wasn't allowed to wear any Goodrays branding. I wasn't allowed to talk about our products. I wasn't allowed to have a can in my hand because it all had to be about policy, laws, regulation, etc. And it was that kind of stuff that basically got our foot in the door because it was still a relatively unknown piece of work. So I think taking that kind of category approach and that policy work actually went in kind of top side nearly into many of the retailers. And then we launched in Waitrose and Tesco within 2 weeks in 2022. And we're in almost every retailer now, which is, hard graft.
Which retailers are you in then?
So we're in Tesco, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, so the 4 big grocers, going into some of the big high street chains. We're on Amazon and then a bunch of kind of QSR cafe chains as well. And then we went into France, into Intermarché, Carrefour, Auchan, Leclerc as well. So,
and how's that turned out?
It's turned out all right. Yeah, it's turned out all right. Like, as many people will know, like the French market is a particularly challenging market. And it was the right thing at the time to try it because we launched in 6 grocers in 6 weeks, which is a relatively insane thing to do. But the French market is a bit like the UK on-trade. It's like you have to have people go into every single store to make sure your product is on shelf. So we've pulled back now because it's just not the right time for the business. But, you learn more through these things.
In terms of the UK, great for business.
Yeah, flying. Yeah, UK is flying. And to be fair, like, I'm sure this isn't true for every sector, but I found the UK grocery system and retail system actually incredibly collaborative to work with. And now it's hugely competitive. I mean, the barrier to entry on something like a soft drink or like even booze or any of this stuff is like so low because you can come out of university with 10, 20 grand in your pocket and say, I could make a better G&T than the next guy. So it's the most competitive space to go into. But I think when you go in and you build some kind of credibility and a unique point of view and a point of difference and you perform on shelf, they can actually be really good to work with. So yeah, I can't complain.
Have you found that it's almost like you're talking from a point of view of being all over your kind of stats of your product? Is that something that you've done which has enabled you to kind of get better credibility when you've been, pitching to many stockists?
Yeah, I think like product quality has always been like core of what we do. We're the premium product in the market and the most premium soft drink in any supermarket in the UK, which is pretty crazy to think about. But I think what goes into that is like making sure our ingredients are super effective, they're sustainably sourced, our liquids are as clean as they possibly can be, they do as little harm on the planet as possible. And I think when you have enough kind of product truths and differentiation, you can go and really have a unique place and position for the retailers.
And so far to date, over 20 million total sales, is that right?
This year, getting to 20 million total sales, yeah. Wow. It's been a kind of like rapid growth journey, I think. The first few years, you are just getting momentum. I think that's the hardest thing to do in any business. But once you have momentum, it's really about fueling it. And I think first few years, we doubled every single year, which is crazy. And now we're at kind of 2-year CAGR of 150%. So it's growing pretty rapidly. But we also think, the kind of sky is the limit. Like we're only really getting started and we have some exciting plans for the future and growth plans. And we're super collaborative with all our partners. We have an amazing team and there's a lot we still can do. And when you look at the headroom in the UK market versus the US market, I mean, we talk about functional drinks as a category at 1.2% of the soft drinks market, but in the US it's 10% of the market. So it's like nearly a tenfold headroom. to go after. And ultimately, the consumer is there. Like the consumer is moving much further ahead than the retailer is. So, yeah, the sky is the limit.
So, in terms of the brand and its ability to expand so quickly, you've obviously been extremely good at being able to pitch to some pretty huge retailers. Are there any nuggets that you've learned along the way in terms of making sure that you go into that pitch and nail it?
I think, at the start of the process is like, don't go in too heavy. Don't send them too much stuff. Like, try and understand who they are and what they want. Like, sit on their side of the table before you really think about your side first. So what are they incentivized by? Like, what are they interested in? Getting attention is hard, and you have to be quite creative about how you do get attention. Like we've driven a Goodrays branded Jeep up to many a headquarter in the UK over different years, like sometimes in January, December, just sampling outside to get to the buyer. Like you do have to be super persistent.
Turning up in a Jeep?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 100%. Or just like doorstepping, going into the reception and waiting for them 8 hours a day sometimes to see when have they checked in, are they coming out? We'll just wait 5 minutes.
We hear this time and time again. It's almost like that, without saying the word, but it's always like there's got to be a level of desperation, because to wait for 8 hours, you've got to be desperate to do something, and that's what you're saying. You've got to do.
Yeah, 100%. You have to be super desperate. You have to have a lot, I think, on the line to do this kind of stuff. Like, for us, it was I couldn't really imagine like the failure of it. You know what I mean? In terms of like that was the thing that kept me up at night. And I was driven a lot by the fear of failure in a way, which is maybe not the healthiest thing.
But for you, that was the secret.
I think so. Like I couldn't let it fail. And for a number of reasons, like that's a personal thing for me. That's also the fact that, I've had friends and family have put in money who aren't like particularly affluent people, but they believe in the business and the vision. We've hired people from well-paid big jobs that are great for them to come and work for us. And I think when you feel that level of responsibility, like you can't let everyone down. So you have to be super persistent, and you have to bash through all those walls and kind of never take no for an answer in a way. I think that's probably the one defining characteristic I've seen in a lot of like successful entrepreneurs, I think. So you have to be persistent, you have to be creative, but I also think then you have to be like, when you actually find the time and you get the attention, I think it's more about being human. And I think, yes, all the retailers are like super data driven. Like you need to know your numbers, you need to know the category, you need to know how you outperform the other products, but you also like really need to understand them on a human level. Like, why are they interested? What are they excited about in their job? What are they worried about in their job? So if we were to spend time, if we had 30 minutes with a retailer we've never met before, like I would tend to spend 25 minutes asking them questions to like understand exactly what they're interested in. There's no real point in me pitching unless I really understand exactly what you're interested in. It'd be the same, if I was asking you to invest or asking you to buy, like I'd ask you questions before I just tell you why you want my product.
Hey, what sort of things are they worried about?
Oh, like losing profitability, losing revenue. Like I spoke to the head of grocery drinks in Sainsbury's yesterday, and she runs 4 billion of sales through her channel alone, which is a huge responsibility. And I was like, what keeps you up at night? Because this is the first time I met her. And she was saying like the decline of booze is massive for them. And also with duties increasing, and they're never getting their profitability back from booze. So booze is declining because people are moderating, the people are drinking less but better, but they're never getting the profitability back from booze, and they don't think they'll ever come back. So that's the kind of stuff that would keep you up.
So that is a trend that is reversed and potentially for good.
Yeah, I think so. I think moderation is the key word that everyone uses. I think people are more interested in health and will continue to be more interested in health. That's never going to change. I think Gen Z is really interesting because everyone says like, oh yeah, they don't drink. No, none of them drink. That's not 100% true when you look at like more recent data plus like future trend forecasts. Is actually a lot of Gen Z now are drinking as they enter the working population because they have more money. They're weirdly smoking cigarettes again. Cigarettes are back. Who would have thought?
No.
Yeah, seriously. So I think Gen Z are a bit more nuanced than people give them credit for. I think I don't want to say all brat summer, but I think they had a pretty significant impact. I think like there is
what are you talking about?
do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Charlie XCX. Do you know who Charlie XCX is?
No.
Charlie XX is a very... are you serious?
Yeah. Am I some hardcore geek and doofus for not knowing this?
No.
Yeah, no, you can
well, maybe.
tell me straight, yeah.
Well, maybe. Well, you're a different cultural world. Maybe you're not online as much as... Yeah, pop culture literate.
I need to know this. What's
Yeah,
this?
he's...
So you said Brat Summer.
Well, and also, this is like 2 years ago, so maybe it's just fallen out of your mind in that period. But it was like a very popular song where Charlie XCX, I don't know why I'm talking about this, like released an album which is all about like kind of bringing back some of the naughties messiness of, you know, binge drinking and smoking, and it kind of glamorized that, and Gen Z were very interested.
So those naughty Gen Zers have got on the bandwagon and...
Yeah. I don't know if it's temporary or not, but I think Gen Zs are way more nuanced than we give them credit for. It's like we just think they're all the same, going to the gym and digitally online all the time.
But they're not.
No, they're not. No. Who would have thought, you know, a population of billions of people, there would be some nuance in there.
Wow. Okay. But, I mean, I feel like I've lost what we were talking about. Can you help me get back? Where are we?
Brat Summer.
Yeah, Brat Summer. So you've got, but what's that got to do with Goodrays?
I think just with Gen Z booze decline.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that is why potentially this is something. Oh yes, they're smoking, but they're smoking, but they're not drinking.
Well, they're starting to drink again, but
they're drinking again
because they're getting more cash now. They're starting to drink again, and they're starting to smoke, and it's just, I think it's unpredictable. I think, but when you look like macro level, like people are just getting healthier and healthier. People think about longevity more and more, and I think as well, like people feel. I don't know about you, but I think people in general feel slightly nihilistic about like the world, like climate change, geopolitics, cost of living. Like these are all things that are like hugely stressful, but like none of us have any control over. But the things that we can control every day is like how we live our lifestyles, so we can live healthier lifestyles, we can exercise more, or we can be out in the sun more, and we can control what we put in our body, right? Because that also impacts massively how we feel. And now 76% of people look at food and drink about how that impacts their mental well-being.
I've never seen so many people when you go to the supermarket look at ingredients.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, has anybody else noticed that? Have people seen it? Always studying the back of whatever they're getting. Yes, it's incredible.
Yeah, 80% apparently.
Is it 80%? Yeah. And you know, I used to smoke. I had my last cigarette over 10 years ago. I've never vaped.
Congratulations.
I've never had one puff of a cigarette, right? I thought of smashing it, getting to the gym, but now there's this whole thing about ultra processed food. So, I'm starting to beat myself up on now, having some of the cheat ingredients. And I think someone put it really well, which is if you can't pronounce the ingredient on the back of something, put it back down. And I'm finding myself doing that more and more and more now. But that's the new thing. You're right. It's another thing, making sure that even the ingredients are pure and as simple as possible. Yeah,
but I also think you touch on quite an interesting subject that like we've been thinking at a brand level, and like who we are and who our consumer is like, you know, you stopped smoking 10 years ago, you're exercising, you're healthy, you're fit, like that's amazing. But now you're thinking about this next thing to be worried about. And I think
I am worried about it.
And you are worried about it, and everyone's worried about it. But and now I think like there's almost too much pressure on like being as healthy and as fit as possible. There's like this new thing where, you know, people are feeling wellness burnout, where they feel too much pressure of like, oh, if I'm not going to the gym enough, I'm not good enough, or I'm eating a cheat meal, I feel really terrible about that. Like, and I think the culture's nearly gone too far. Like people are trying to optimize themselves too much. Like they're tracking their blood sugars, if they're, even if they're not medically needed to do so, tracking their hours of sleep and stuff, and they're obsessing over all this data. Is this you? Fitbit. And I think there's obviously like a huge amount of benefits to it, but I think we're dangerously close to going too far. And I think like what we want to be about as a brand is like everyday well-being, and telling people it's okay, like you're good enough as it is. You don't have to like sacrifice all the pleasures of life, and you can exercise for the feeling. You don't have to exercise to get marginal gains every single day. Like, you know, life is also for living. You need to live in the moment and enjoy it. So true.
Well. We need to have messages like that, because it's getting so serious, and the pressure is relentless.
It's the pressure, and people are under enough pressure, like whether that's costs, working, etc. I think for us as a brand is like Goodrays, we want to be a bit more about sunshine and positivity and optimism, and tell people it's going to be all right.
Yeah, because you go to the gym, see a lot of those Gen Zers, and they look like they've just got off the set of Love Island, don't they? All pumped and glowing. And that puts you on pressure. That puts you under pressure as well, even though 20 years younger than you probably can't compete with them, but you're trying.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it's gone too far. Like, I don't want to talk about lux maxing on this, but you should look at lux. Does anyone know what lux maxing is? Yeah, like the culture's gone insane. Now this is like a fringe culture, a niche culture thing. Yeah, people are like breaking their jaws to make them like more angular and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. So I think these things can swing slightly too far, and we as like a wellbeing brand don't want to contribute to more of that pressure.
Yeah.
Like I think we're a soft drink. Like we should also be about joy and optimism, and give people a treat and a moment in their life.
What I'm loving about this drink is the taste is wonderful. So I'm drinking the raspberry and the guava, which I've been discovering is quite a rare fruit, right? Or it's a fruit that is quite hard to get hold of.
Yeah, it's Mexican fruit. Yeah, I think I was telling you before we were recording. Like, I used to go 3 a.m. in the morning to go to Smithfield Market to get all these ingredients to go and shoot them to put on our website and stuff as well. But learned a lot. Like from a flavor strategy, we've always gone like accessible and sort of exotic as well, because it's a bit more premium, it's a bit more adult.
Yeah, but it tastes really lovely, and I really mean that. And I've always loved your product because it tastes so lovely, but it does chew you.
Yeah,
you can feel it.
And quick self plug. It does rank as the #1 taste product in the category.
Woo! Now that is pretty impressive.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I think so.
Because it's all about taste. It's all about product. It's all about that feeling you get, but it's also about the taste, right?
Yeah, taste and feeling. I mean, taste is still #1 in pretty much any food and drink category, even if you do have a functional element to you. So I think it's massively important to nail that.
So you've raised some great money. Guinness Ventures, I believe, put a good chunk of cash in.
Yeah, we raised a total of 5 million middle of last year. Guinness Ventures led that round, as well as like our existing investors who've been with us from the start.
Yeah. So you have obviously been creating a business that is growing fast by virtue of the amount of units that you're selling, literally flying off the shelves. But you've had some pretty high celebrities. You've had some pretty high profile people putting some money as well. I read Vernon and Tess, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, real mix. Some high profile. So you've got Vernon and Tess Daly invested early on. Sam Fender invested.
The big musician star.
Big musician star. Yeah, big musician and he's a star. Yeah, we've got a couple amazing executives, creatives. We've got professional skateboarders, professional surfers.
How does it feel? How does that make you feel when you have such amazing people like that really buying into your product?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like having people back you to that degree, and also a lot of them came in early. Like, so they really back you as a team and back you with a mission and a vision, rather than just like, oh, we're in every supermarket, which now obviously makes the business a bit more investable. A lot of people took a punt on us early on. Like, it's obviously hugely rewarding and encouraging, but I think also importantly, you should be conscious that like you are raising money from people, and that's people putting in their disposable income into you, which I think also should make you responsible and accountable for that money. Like, probably too many businesses historically have raised money and burnt that cash quite quickly. I think what I always say to investors is like, we'll take your money, but we will look after it, and I'll spend it like it was my own money.
Really?
Yeah, I think
what a lovely way to look at it.
I think
it's your own money.
Yeah, and I think the market is getting tougher in terms of like raising capital with everything that's going on, and I think there's more of an onus now on businesses to show cost-conscious founders. Like, I think maybe 5-10 years ago, it was easy enough to raise 5-10 million. It's now becoming more difficult, and more VCs and investors are asking for profitability and that kind of stuff. And, different categories run by different rules. But I think showing cost-consciousness is actually a really positive thing as a founder. And I don't think, spending overly aggressively is always the right move and at the right time. You just have to pick your moments, I think.
So would your advice be for anyone raising money right now to really think about making sure that you are showing that cost consciousness, as you say, because ultimately that could be very important for helping you raise that money?
Yeah, look, it really depends on what business you're in as well. Like for food and drink, it is capital intensive. Like you need cash because you need a large addressable market, and you need to get into supermarkets, you need to drive awareness like that and you need to do it quickly, and that is expensive to do. But also think about, like, does your business necessarily need money or investment right now? Do you really have a plan of how you're going to spend it and how you're going to show returns on that spend and that investment as well? So not all businesses are right for VC investing. Not all businesses are right for taking any money. So I just think about like your sector, your structure, how you're going to deliver returns, what you're going to do with cash. Do you really need it? And then kind of make decisions from there.
Yeah. So obviously there is, you were talking about the fact that in America there's a huge market that you could go after. Is expansion on that level something that you're really going to go for?
Potentially at the right time, but I think there's still so much headroom to go after in the UK. And we talked about it like a bit earlier, but like I think growing that category and being an advocate for the category, we're still at that relatively low percentage versus the US. We see so much headroom, and we also see so much headroom in Europe, because like the UK and the US are like the most forward-thinking markets when it comes to food and drink and innovation. And I think we're addressing a real consumer problem here, because people are interested and need help with mental well-being and well-being, and that's becoming more and more important, and that's a macro trend, and it's probably only going to get worse. And we're in the middle of a mental health pandemic where 67% of people are feeling stress on a weekly basis. So I just think there's just, and that number has doubled in the last 6 years. Doubled, which is crazy. Yeah. And it's probably underreported as well. So there's just so much headroom in the UK and Europe to go after. Like, we're trying not to take our eye off the ball and really focus and go deep on this market, because we just think there's more to do.
Does it make you feel proud that through this you're helping people with that?
Yeah, well, like I imagine, obviously like very proud, but I think probably most people you speak to are pretty bad at looking backwards and probably pretty bad at reflecting. Maybe that's just me.
Really?
But yeah, well, I think you're always looking at it and being like, probably change that word there, or probably change that color slightly. Yeah, like what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And maybe not my biggest skill set is like looking backwards and feeling proud. So try and do it at Christmas.
Yeah. It's a final question, a question I always love asking, because I think it's where you get some of the major learnings from these sort of things. But there must have been some big mistakes you've made along the way. Are there any particular big stonking fuck ups that come to mind that really made you test yourself and made you almost come close to quitting, I guess?
I mean, probably too many to go through today. Like, I think when you're a founder, like, you're going to make so many wrong decisions. Like, you just have to hope that you're going to make more right than wrong. And like, you're making decisions on a daily basis, so it nets out in the long run. But yeah, I've made loads of mess ups. I mean, I think one major one that like always sticks out to me, because it was so tangible, is I'd ordered 100,000 cans that had the word cannabis on them, and then our retailer was like, "You cannot put that in our store." So I literally had like a warehouse full of all these cans saying cannabis seltzer on them, because we wanted to be proud about the plant and all that kind of stuff.
Because 100,000 cans is a lot, isn't it? That's going to take up quite a bit of space.
Yeah. It was a lot. Like, I've got a photo of it. It's like, it's just as far as the eye can see. And then I was standing in front of it. I'm small compared to all the cans in there, and it's like, I've wasted the cash, and I'm going to have to destroy all these, and I can't fill a single one. And now I'm late with production, and now I'm late with delivery. So
was that for you a moment where you thought, I'll blow it?
Probably. I mean, there's probably so many moments that you think you blew it, particularly early on, and then as you grow, a bit older and you're in it a bit longer, you realize not every mistake is like an existential crisis. So you definitely build a lot of resilience to mistakes. We still make mistakes, but we know now actually the brand is strong enough, the business, like the model is strong enough, the team is strong enough now to deal with all that. But I think when you're early on, you're probably panicking a lot more about like existential crisis and massive mess ups that are going to bankrupt the business. And the reality is you work through it, you'll find a way around it.
Yeah. What excites you the most about what's to come then?
I think just, we have historically, probably as a business, initially focused like those first few years on like setting up a brilliant product, setting up a supply chain and a business model like at scale, getting a little bit of money into scale. Then you've got to get distribution in place, because no real point spending on brand and marketing until you've got distribution. And so I spent 4 years building distribution. And now we're in a place where we're capitalized, distribution in place. We can do the fun stuff. We can do really disruptive brand marketing now, right? We can be on billboards and on online ads, and we can say whatever we want to say. And we have I think like an actual important point of view on the world, like, which is different to what you might get with just another gin brand or just another beer brand. It's kind of hard to talk about hops or, quinine in a different way. It's like we're actually talking about something that people are thinking about every single day, which is well-being and stress and sleep and all that kind of stuff. And we can talk about it in an interesting way, and we can be more authentic than some of the big brands that haven't gone through the experiences that me or the team have gone through. So now we can actually invest behind that. I just think we can be super creative and we can do whatever we want. The marketing strategy, the brand strategy can be what we want it to be. We're not limited by distribution or supply chain. We've got the basis in place now to go and do really exciting stuff.
What a brilliant place to start, because as you're talking about that, you can generally, the excitement is palpable.
Yeah, good.
Listen, Owen, it's been lovely for you to come to the studio. I've been messaging you for quite a few months now saying, come on, get in. And it's lovely, therefore you found the time to come. It's always lovely hearing your story. But I think since the last time we spoke, it's amazing to see the leaps that you've now taken to really, truly get this brand to the level that it's going to be. Cannot wait to see in the next 2-3 years this huge brand and where it's going to be. So, mate, thank you a million.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you some quick questions now. Don't overthink them. Shoot from the heart.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
Let's go. What's been the biggest surprise about running a business?
It's not glamorous. I used to think, you'd be traveling nice places, staying in nice places, but you stay in cheap motels on manufacturing trips that last way too long.
Jeez, I'm sorry. That's quite a sad way of looking at it. I'm sure there's some perks, isn't it?
No.
No. All right, move on. What have you sacrificed to build your business?
Yeah, I think time, obviously time, but I think time with friends and family and stuff, that's probably the hardest bit. You do have to make quite a few sacrifices, I think, starting. I think as you get a bit bigger, you start to put a structure, a team in place and stuff, and then you can hopefully rebuild a lot of that. But yeah, I've probably missed more time with friends and family that I don't want to say regret, because you've got to make these choices, but that's the bit I think about the most.
How big is the team now?
17.
17, wow, jeez. That is amazing. I asked the same question 3 years ago. I think it was 3 of you.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest business fuck up?
Well, there's probably too many to mention. One that really sticks out is early on, because when you fuck up early on, you're really scared. But I printed 150,000 cans with cannabis seltzer on them, and then the retailer said we're never stocking that. So
that was a no fuck moment then, I guess.
Yeah, I was looking in a warehouse in the middle of Leicester somewhere with 100,000 cans, a sea of cans in front of me, and I had to waste them all, and I was just like, what a waste. Cash is gone. Not going to get any money back from this, and I'm going to be late for the delivery and manufacturing and out of stocks. So that was a bit of a fuck up.
You said you got a picture?
Yeah.
Well, we'll be showing it right now, appearing on the screen, so you can see that.
Nice.
How cool is that?
Cool.
How would you describe the life of an entrepreneur?
Relentless, I'd say. I think that's probably the number one thing, is you just have to go every single day. The thing I think I've noticed most is I'm really bad with letting go of time. Every piece of time is accounted for in my brain. So if something falls out of track, I'm like, I was supposed to spend 10 minutes on that today. Now everything's going to be pushed back. Now I can't go to the gym or go to the bed or whatever. So you start to become very obsessive over time. It can be quite relentless. But there's amazing things, you are learning literally all the time. Your job changes every 6 months. You meet the most amazing people, and you learn more than you can in any other job.
Yeah. And of course, you've got a little baby now, so that's changed things up, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. We should get better at the time management now. So because you get a bit stricter, you have to be otherwise you're deadbeat dad.
Has there been a moment you've thought about quitting?
I don't think I've thought about quit. Honestly, I don't think I've thought about I'm going to quit this job. I think more just oh, the business is going to fail, I'm going to lose my job. Probably a couple of times. And I was saying more early on, because you think every problem's an existential crisis, when, as you grow, you work through so many problems, you build a resilience to it, and you get better and kind of braver, I suppose, and just more level-headed. The pressure goes up, but your ability to deal with the pressure also goes up.
Yeah. Owen, that was absolutely awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming in today. You're the best.
Absolute pleasure. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.